Hey,
Hey, what's going on, man?
not much. How you doing?
Happy 4th of July.
Thanks, you too.
Well, yeah, thank you for jumping on the podcast. And I mean, it's pretty easy. It's kind of just talking about your situation and letting other dads know kind of, good or bad of what to do in theirs. So,
Yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm ready to talk about this stuff some. So, all right, man, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
cool. Yeah, I mean, so just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your situation.
God, yeah. Let's see. My name's Aaron, and I've got. Let's see my situation. Where to start? I think I was married for 20. Well, I was married for 17 years. Knew my ex for 22. I've got 2 kids. They're teenagers, and about a year and a half ago, after one of the biggest events in my business that I've ever put on, the biggest event of the year, about 2 days later, we sit down and she asks, she says something like, I can't remember what she said. She asked for a divorce, and she's like, this just isn't right. This isn't working. I think we both know that it's not the best thing. And I was just like, my first thought was like, oh my God, I just turned into my dad. Like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Just happened. Like I became my dad. This same thing happened to my dad. And I'd been trying to figure I was home with the kids, 2 afternoons a week. I drop them off at school 3 afternoons. I was home by 7:00. I mean, shoot, my dad never did that stuff, and he was home at like 9.
Yeah.
And so I was like doing my best to be like, not my dad. And I'm like, oh no, I turned into my dad.
Did you see this happen? Like, was it building up before this? Like, were you guys having issues or problems before this, or it just really sprung on you?
It's okay. It was, it wasn't completely out of the blue. So we had spent, so that was in, it's 2020. That was in 2022. So in probably 2017, I think I did like a year of therapy. She was like, she said something like, you seem really angry, and, I really think you should get some therapy. And I wasn't that angry, but whatever. So I was like, I'm going to go do some therapy. And we had done some couples therapy a long 10, 12 years ago. So I went and did some therapy. I found a therapist, did some therapy, and then we did some therapy together because we were having some just communication issues and things like that. And then we did about a year of couples therapy. And then somewhere in there, she did like a year of therapy with that same therapist. And I went and did a Wake Up Warrior program with Garrett J. White. I don't know if you know him, but I did that. It was it's for married businessmen. And I did that. It was more personal development and some business stuff. But, I did that. And I was just working to make changes. And along the way, I'd be like, is this helping? And it was never.
Working to make changes at home, right?
Yeah, working to make changes at home with me and in our relationship and how I saw things and how we communicated. Things like not asking for permission, but, being informative. Like instead of saying, hey, can I go do this? It's like, I would like to do this. Does that work for you? And, and saying things, being able to say things to her like, I see that you're struggling with that. Would you like, me to help with a solution, or would you just like me to listen? And those things I guess, I would ask is this working? And she was like, no, it's not. And she was saying, it's hard for me to be intimate with you and want to have sex with you if I don't feel emotionally connected.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, okay. So I'd try to have these conversations with her to, talk about things she's interested in. And she's like, well, why are you asking me these questions? I'm like, I'm trying to talk to you about things that you said you're interested in. And, or you need to, or to say, hey, why don't you ask me questions about things that you're interested in? She's like, we're only talk about you and your work. I'm like, well, I'm sitting here and you're not talking about the things that you want to do. And so we did that, and I did that program, and then 2020 came around, and we had to spend time together, and it was a great year. I was able to. I have 2 businesses. One is an in-person business, the other is an online business, and I was able to spend time working on both of them, saving them both, and really growing my online coaching business. And then she said, look, you do that. I can't work, so I'll stay home with the kids, and I'll be the one that's, if the kids needed, when they were going back to school, that picks them up and all that. And we had a great time. She helped plan a bunch of like just family parties, pool parties, dance parties, movie nights, and all these things. We had a great time during 2021. And I think 2020, and then I think by the time 2021 hit and we were able to start getting out in the world,
Yeah.
she started getting back out, and so and then maybe things reverted. But so here's the interesting part was she asked for a divorce in March of 2022, and I was sitting there thinking, well, okay, like, yeah, this has been really hard. Like, maybe she's right. Maybe we just aren't good for each other. Maybe this is something that we should do, and I just don't have the courage to speak up and change.
That's tough though. 17 years is a long time.
It is a long
Yeah.
time. Like, I knew her we were together for 5 years before we got married.
Yeah.
So I met her out in California. We spent, we couldn't live together because, in San Francisco, housing was so difficult even 20 something years ago that it took us a year of looking before she moved in with me and my other roommate in a much too small place. And she was there for 5 months, and we moved to San Luis Obispo, which is a different coastal town. And that's when we first started living together. So we didn't actually live together for 3 years. And then we were together for a year and a half, and then we got married. So we were together for 5 years before we got married. And we were together forever. And I was like, we made it through COVID. I was like,
Right.
we've made it through all of our friends getting divorced. Like, we're good, like
That was the
this,
hard. A lot of people got divorced during COVID, so
yeah,
that was a tough.
yeah. And this was like, I was like, we made it through it. I'm like, cool. Like, we're stronger together. But then things kind of deteriorated a little bit again. But I was like, things are good. Like, we were in the months leading up to her asking for a divorce, we were texting back and forth about a vacation. Like, hey, let's drop our kids with my mom, and we'll go to the Bahamas because we just really needed that. And we were going back and forth about this. So so she asked for a divorce. We go through that process. I mean, there's a lot of little things here. I mean, she wanted a divorce. She wanted to move out. She went and wanted to make an offer on a house. And then she did make an offer on the house. She's like, I need a check for $75,000 to put an offer down on the house. Because remember, the before the rates went up, but the houses, there was shortage, and it's like, so a 20% down payment, 20% was 80 something thousand. It was a $350,000 house. So she asked for that, and so I went and got a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and this, like up into that, we were just trying to work things out. We weren't living apart, and we were like, she was like, let's do it. Like, let's just, I don't need to steal things from you, and you don't need, we'll just figure it out. And we had two businesses and, another property. And so I did that. And then she got mad. She got upset that I went and got a lawyer. I was like, all right, well, she's like, I thought we were going to do this like collaborative law process. So she moves out, and we split the kids 50-50. And, my lawyer's like, yeah, you should have called me, but we'll deal with it. And I'm going to just fast forward through last summer, because this is where it gets interesting. She had taken my kids to an amusement park nearby, and I picked them up, and we're driving in the car, and I asked how it was, and my youngest daughter is like, oh yeah, and so was there too with his son, and I was like, oh, I know him and his wife, and she goes, oh, you mean his ex-wife? And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And like, I knew they were friends and they had been dating, but I was like, okay, his ex-wife? I was like, that was weird. Like, because they were like also working on some stuff through work together. And then, so that was Monday. And then Saturday, I got a DM on Facebook from an acquaintance I know through work. And she was like, hey, Aaron, I have something I need to share with you, but it's not about work. Do you have time to talk today? And I was like, oh. And this isn't someone I know very well.
Right.
And it turns out that this person from work knew about what was happening to me, because, I shared like, hey, these things, these strategies you put in for work really helped me because, I'm going through a divorce. And she had been out with a friend, and their mutual friend was telling them about their divorce or her divorce. And she was like, this sounds way too familiar. Who's the
no
woman?
way.
And it was my wife.
Small world.
Yep.
Jesus.
Small world. And so she connected me with this other woman, and we chatted, and it turns out my wife had been cheating on me.
Yeah. I was going to, when you were saying everything else, I was like, it sounds like
Yeah.
she's checked out
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so it was weird. Like earlier in that summer, my cousin was like, "You need to check into this," and I did, and I couldn't find anything but like one little thing, and I was like, "It's inconsequential." And she was supposed. I was like, she spent $20 at this restaurant in the mountain town. It wasn't the same mountain town she said she was going to be in, but it's logical. Like if she went for a day hike, that's fine. But I started digging, and she had gone out of town with this other guy 3 times over the winter, and purchased like Victoria's Secret stuff on her personal card, and got her hair done before she went hiking or to go up the mountains to write in her book. I mean, and it turns out that she had an affair, and she met this guy through, like, it was in 2020. She started doing creating a like, it was like a mindfulness, like interfaith mindfulness meditation approach with a minister, a rabbi, and herself, the meditation and like Buddhist type of person, and started dating this guy. And it just got really messy, and it hurt a lot.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And it was crazy because I was like, oh well, maybe for 4 months I was like, well, maybe, yeah, she's right, maybe we just aren't compatible. But then it was like, oh, she was looking at it, and so I don't. As I've gone back and I created this big timeline just to try to put all the pieces together, and even now, so it's been almost, it hadn't been a year since I found out, but it's been over a year since we separated. And looking back, this was a coordinated like almost premeditated divorce.
Definitely. Yep.
They both asked for the divorce from their respective partners within 2 weeks of each other. The other, her current boyfriend, the other couple, they were using this collaborative divorce, and she got mad at me when I got a lawyer because she's like, well, I thought we were going to do the collaborative law thing. And I was like, yeah, but you asked for $70,000 check. I'm going to go get a lawyer.
Absolutely. And that was probably the best thing you could have done, because if you give her that and then it starts getting messy, it's like, well, you've already right. handed her $70,000. Now
Right.
Let's start court. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And it was, so that like drained me of, all our savings and cash I had on hand to, buy a building that was, it's just like waiting to buy like a building, and, that the office was in. And yeah, and it was, so it's probably $100,000 for the house plus furnishing it.
Yeah.
So that came out of my side of the, distribution of our assets, but I had to put that out, and it was a lot of cash. And, yeah. So, I got a lawyer, and we got it. I got a great deal. She saved me a lot of money, but it still wasn't a win.
Right.
Like there's a lot of money saved over the long term because of the laws in North Carolina that if you commit adultery or...
So were you able to prove that in court?
We didn't go to court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had... my lawyer's really good, and I don't think her lawyer was as good. Her lawyer's one of the best, one of the most respected lawyers in Greensboro for divorce, but I don't know. I don't know if her lawyer knew. Maybe her lawyer didn't know, and it was like, oh, we can't. They didn't contest it. We said we're not going to pay alimony, and here's why. And we've got a stack of evidence. We didn't share it with them, and they didn't contest it. And I was just like, why wouldn't she contest it? Like, I just didn't understand.
She probably thought you had way more than you did.
Well, no, because if she contested it, we would have had to take it all to court, and she, if it was all true.
Yep.
If any of it was true and we went to court, like she still would have lost.
Yeah.
And but to me, I was like, well, why wouldn't she contest it? Because I couldn't believe that this was actually true. You know, it was like, but she couldn't contest it because it was true that they were together. And but she's just been lying a lot. And I'm like, even this spring, I was like, you said you want to be friends, and I'm really tired of holding like a grudge with you. So let's sit down and chat. And we did. And I was like, and we chatted, and she, admitted to, having an emotional affair. And I was like, I didn't want to push that point.
Yeah. Good for you.
But, everyone that I've talked to is like, you buy Victoria's Secret to go out of town with someone else. Like, this is just an emotional affair. Like, she never bought lingerie for me.
Right.
Twice in 22 years. I remember them both.
Yeah.
Once she sent me pictures, once I arrived at the cabin and she was wearing some lingerie. And outside of those two things, which was over 20 years ago, like she never did that for me. And she even lied and said, "Oh, I bought that for you." I was like, but I even said, like, in, this spring, it almost been a year. I said, "Yeah, you guys have been together for almost a year." She's like, "No, we haven't." And I mean, they have, and they were dating right away after we separated.
Yeah.
And she did this other thing that was like, she sent me this text message. We started gathering more evidence that, after I found out from this person that she had been cheating, or that these two stories were similar. And she sends me a message, says, "Hey, I introduced the kids to, so and so. But I think in the future, when we have a partner we feel is important enough to introduce to the kids, we should let each other know first." But it's like, she's telling me, she's asking me to do something that, in the future, that she wants, but she's already broken that rule.
Right. Yep.
And it's just like, but she's like either doing that to cover her tracks or whatnot. But it's just, I've just uncovered all these things where she's doing that, where she's asking for one thing, doing something completely different, having different expectations of me, and still, even in divorce, she's having these expectations. And I think it's just, so it's like I was being, like, what the word's gaslit, right? She's just gaslighting me the whole time. And it's interesting. And you asked me to come on the show, and I've been looking on podcasts. I was like, who's got this story like I do? Like I couldn't find one. And so I think the thing is like, it was like, did it come out of nowhere? No, but it did. It wasn't, it wasn't like we were talking about divorce. We weren't actively in therapy. It was just like, all of a sudden one day, well, I didn't want to tell you before leading up to your event. I'm like, and then it's just all these things along the way. She's denying all these things. And it's like, I felt like I was like, I'm living on another planet. Like, I'm the crazy one.
Well, that's the tough part too, is when you start finding out more and more and more, and then you look back and you're like, damn, like I was going to therapy. I was really trying to save our relationship. I was working on us and but you were checked out. You were just dating this other guy, seeing this other guy. You didn't really care about me. And that's what sucks, is like, it's very emotionally for you. It's very difficult when someone cheats on you and someone breaks that, that promise.
Yeah.
20 years married, 17 years married. It's like, that's fucking tough. That takes a lot on you. And it just talking with you now, it doesn't seem like you're over it.
Oh, no.
Right. And because it's still fresh. It's only been a year since you've been divorced.
Yeah.
But yeah. Are you working on yourself? Like, are you staying busy? Are you,
Yeah, I am. I've been doing I do therapy. Like, I have a therapist that I see. So when it first happened, I was like, shit, I need to find a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, last year, like, it was really hard to find someone. I found someone, and I found a woman, and she was great, and she helped me kind of start the process and understand things from like a woman's perspective. But came a point last winter, about 5 months ago, I was like, I need to have some things I need to talk to a guy about, And so I've got a good therapist now, and I meet with him once a week. But I had to go online to find someone through one of the online things, because it was just so hard to find people locally.
Yeah.
But I found someone good, and that's been great. I'm doing that. I work out 5 to 7 days a week. I train with kettlebells, and I'll maybe go to a CrossFit class or yoga, or ride my bike. I've done a lot of journaling, which helps. There's some books I've read, but it's like the journaling helps. Like, the other day, I had a meeting with clients, and all of a sudden I found myself about an hour before just writing down like this whole story about what happened.
Yep.
And I was like, shit, I got a meeting. I got to stop. But I didn't want to stop. And it was just, so that was really helpful. And what I've realized is I changed a lot of things about the way I am to accommodate her.
Right.
One of my goals right now, or my jobs, is to figure out, like, who am I as the 49-year-old?
Yep.
Who am I versus like who I thought I should be? And there are even things right now where, like, I'll have the kids for the weekend and I won't get a babysitter, and I'll feel guilty if I do. But she'll have the kids for the weekend and she'll get the babysitter 2 or 3 of the nights.
Right. Yeah. How old are your kids? Are teenagers, you said?
Yeah, they're 12 and 14.
Oh, okay. So, but that's still fairly young.
Yeah, still fairly young.
Yeah.
But it was like, even when we were together, the whole thing with the babysitter is she would never get a babysitter so that we could go out.
Right.
You know, or if I tried, I was like, I was choosing the wrong person, or she had all these questions about who they were that I was like, if you have all these particular questions about who they are and what, all these things, then maybe you should be the one that asks them, because I can't ask them those same questions and triangulate this back and forth. So it was her job to get a babysitter, and we could never get someone so that we could go out of town. And now it's like she's going out of town. Now that we're divorced, she gets to go out of town whenever she wants.
Yeah.
Some days I feel like I'm the sucker that ended up being the babysitter for her, but I know I'm not. It's not. I get to spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
Like last weekend we went to the water park all day long, and we did a movie night, and we did a ton of fun stuff. And then I look at her and go, she's getting a babysitter to go out with this guy and not spending it with her kids, and like, this is not the person that I married.
Right. Well,
This
now
isn't the
she's
person I was married
infatuated
to.
with her relationship, and it's a new, a new spark, a
Yeah.
new fling. So she's all about it.
Yeah.
How are the kids taking the divorce?
In general, they're doing okay, but I think that, I'm not, I can't say I'm 100% confident because she hasn't told me, but I'm pretty confident that he's living a lot over there.
Yeah.
He's over there a lot. I know he's traveling with them. Like, they went and traveled recently. Actually, right now they're out in California seeing her family, and I'm pretty sure he's there.
Yeah.
And I think it's really early. Like, we're not even final. Our divorce isn't finalized, and he's traveling with them and staying there. And I think that's affecting the kids I know it's affecting the kids in some way. I don't know if they realize it. It hasn't. They haven't had any like drastic behavior change in general.
That's good.
They're good. In general, they're good. My youngest daughter, had like a couple weeks ago, just a couple instances where she was just getting a lot of like anxiety about like transitions and going to, do some different things in the afternoon. And I think that's related, but it's not directly. And I think they're okay. And at the same time, like, I know, it's affecting them. And it's one of those things where I can see a little bit more of it. And I want to tell her, like, like, even as the person that knew you for 22 years, like, I don't think that you're doing service, what's in best, what's best for the kids. But like, at the same time, I still need one more signature from her. And I don't want to delay this like signature by like creating drama.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's like,
I wouldn't,
still feel
I wouldn't
hostage by it.
I wouldn't even ask her that. I wouldn't even tell her that. And the reason why is because it shows that you still care. I mean, obviously you still care about her. It's you 20-year relationship, but you still emotionally care. And it's the situation sucks, but
I know.
it's
Like,
going
I
to take
know
a
I'm not
while to
gonna
get over it.
anything out of it.
Right,
Like,
right.
Out of saying that, like, I wouldn't get anything out of it. It would be only if I felt like it was, directly impacting the kids. But even then, she's already made that choice and decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's tough because even along the way, she's like, "Oh, I still want to be friends." I'm like, "But you're not acting like a friend. You're not treating me like a friend. Just tell me you just want to have nothing to do with me."
Yeah.
Which is really how I'm like, which is crazy. And so I've been thinking a lot and I recognize that like she must have been planning this for a long time, and maybe not have been with him for a long time, but just been planning like, how do I get out of this?
Definitely. I mean, especially if they got divorced around the same time, they both were planning this for sure.
Yeah. And so I know that she asked me for a divorce in March, and there was a phone call that they made while we were, they had together for 30 minutes while we were out of town with family for Thanksgiving. So I know that was the earliest like inappropriate phone call that I could find. So that's, so then it was December, January, February, March. So like 4 to 5 months of, like being together. And I don't know how long they were planning it, but they planned it, and which is crazy to me. And he's a Episcopalian minister and was married for 30 years. And it's just like,
Wow.
I'm like, wow, okay. Like, I think that these like sexually inappropriate relationships are par for the course. It seems like. I'm just like, really?
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just from this, I think it's interesting that the advice, like just any advice I would have like to myself would be, at that first instance is just, double check your tracks. Like, and I did, like, so my cousin, kind of laid into me. He was like, Aaron, you need to see if she's cheating. And I did. And I looked, but I couldn't find anything. But the thing is the first time you look, make sure you download the phone records and especially the text records,
Right. Yep.
because the text records disappear. You get like a rolling 3 months or something like that of text records, and you can't go behind that. So as soon as you suspect something, just go into your Verizon, AT&T account or whatever and download the text records, because you can always get the phone call records, but the text SMS records of where they were sent from and what number they were sent to, those disappear.
So even when you go to the actual AT&T or Sprint or whatever.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I have Verizon, and what happened is in May, I had got them in May, but that only went back through like March, April, May.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't get them as soon as she told me I didn't get them in March. So I couldn't get like the January, February, March. And I had a little bit in May. And then when I found out in August, I could only get like the July, August, or June, July, August. And then but she was off my account at that point.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go back. I tried finding someone, I tried calling, and even though Verizon has it, the only way to get him is with a court order or subpoena. And we weren't going to court. And I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to do that. And so it would be like, at the first like moment you suspect something, just go in and download the records that you have. So you have as soon as someone asks you for a divorce or you suspect like something's weird, go download that stuff. Because the first time I looked, I only saw one thing that, was like, this is weird. Well, it ends up, when I got the context around that, they were up in the mountains together.
Yeah.
And his family had a house in the town where she had lunch. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. When you start putting all those pieces together.
But you don't have all the pieces at first. And so, my cousin was telling me, and I kind of freaked out for like 4 hours and I couldn't find anything. I was like, well, there's no indication. There was nothing else that I could find. But it was the corroboration of evidence or this story. But had I not had this business relationship, and this person have that dinner, and I had just met with her for lunch, because it was someone I had met through Zoom in 2020, but we couldn't meet in person and lived really close. And I was like, hey, let's meet for lunch. It was 2021. We can now go out and meet for lunch. And it was just like coincidence. And I found out, which is really crazy.
Yeah.
But karma can be a motherfucker.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's tough. And for advice that I would give you is just stay busy and just think about your kids. She's going to do her thing no matter what. So it's only going to eat you up inside more. So, you're going to lose that battle, emotionally, no matter what. So,
yeah, I know. I'm just like, it's like, has nothing to do. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I could do before to control her.
Right.
To control whatever. But, and now it's like, there's no consequence to me not like approving of something or saying, hey, I disagree with this, and it's not going to change anything in my life.
Exactly. Yep.
So,
yeah.
Which sucks. It's like I've lose this, like, not control, but like the influence on how we raise our kids and what we do. And the real irony is in my relationship with her, she would sacrifice our relationship for the preservation of the kids.
Yep.
But now that we're divorced, it's like she's prioritizing her relationship with this other person over the kids, and I'm just like,
yep. And the kids will see that though,
yeah.
And it'll not be good on her part. So
right, and I just hope hope they do okay through that part, without me, like, I don't know, bringing the drama to them.
Definitely,
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan,
Sorry you're going through that.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate it. It's it's one of those things that I've just realized that I think it's an opportunity for growth for me. And it's an opportunity for me to do a whole lot of other things. It sucks in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get around, but I do know that there's a lot of lessons, and I think that the business lesson that I'm waiting to share, and if anyone here is a business owner, it's like, it's affected my business, but it's these hard things and these opportunities that hurt, and the growth, they're opportunities for growth and doing something bigger. So my business is going to grow faster without her, because she was holding me back.
Yeah.
But I just have to get through the healing part of the divorce.
Definitely.
Happening.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Appreciate it.
All
Thanks,
right.
Dan.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.